Alright, so it's about time I got to this. Right? Right? What is it? Oh. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Curse of the Shadows. I was going to review this episode by episode when it came out. Decided not to. Waited for the DVD. Got it. And then I waited specifically for October to review this. Slide the damn door. So, following the success of the 3-part mini-series in 2019, they decided to renew it for a second season, as they called it. And they said they were going to recast the show. The entire Midnight Society is going to be recast. And I figured out it was because my theory was that the mini-series, the 3-part one, was the movie we were supposed to get, and they put it on TV. But this, they decided to double the length from 3 to 6, which I'll get to my problems with that in a little bit. And they hired Jeff Wadlow to direct, which made me nervous because Jeff Wadlow directed Blumhouse's Truth or Dare and the Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. Truth or Dare is a bad movie. The more I watch the movie, the more I don't like it. Fantasy Island, not that bad. Not too keen on the twist at the end, but it's not too bad. Either he finally figured out what he was doing, or Nickelodeon put him in check with this, because this is very good. You know. Or Blumhouse had a lot to do with the problems of those movies. It could be that too. But this is very well done. There are various Easter eggs. Ones that I picked up on while watching. There's a Ghastly Grinner comic book, a Ghastly Grinner t-shirt towards the end. They mentioned the Crimson Clown. I think they say Zebo once, maybe. Mr. Sardo, in more ways than one. Sardo, this version of Sardo, says Vink on the telephone during one scene. The teacher's name in this is Schaffner, which was the name of the teacher in The Tale of Locker 215, something like that. 218, 219, whatever it was. Those are those ones I picked on. During a, I'll call flashback scene, the girl June mentions the name Gary. And I swear to God, the guy at the end with the with the camping group looks like Ross Hull, who played Gary. But I don't think it is, because I couldn't find anything. And we have our main characters here, the New Midnight Society. I don't say their names. Offhand, we have Luke, Connor, who is the leader who has gone missing. And okay, so let me lay down the story here. Connor, the leader of this Midnight Society, has gone missing. They're trying to find him, and his disappearance has been connected to supposed cursed woods. If you go into the woods after dark, you get cursed by the Shadow Man, and he takes you away. Apparently, this is a legend, but not many people believe it, even though a lot of kids have gone missing over the years, but I don't know. So our members here are Luke and Connor, aforementioned. I don't remember her name. Even though I watched it, I just can't remember. There's Hannah. So we got Luke. There. That's Connor. There's Hannah. Don't remember her name. That's Hannah's brother, Seth. I'm assuming they're adopted, because they're different skin, unless they have different dads, which could also be the thing. And that's Jay. So when I first saw the trailer for this, I was unsure, because I grew to like those characters from 2019, and these new characters are coming in, and it's like, I don't know, you're not characters I'm familiar with. By the end of this, they got me. I love these characters. They're very well written, for the most part. And one thing about the trailer I criticized was this is kind of a two-part problem, which we'll discuss later, because I want to discuss the last episode in full. I'm not going to go through full plots and not full plot, go through the whole thing. But the last episode I'm going to talk about in depth, because it's a big, like, especially like a certain flashback, it's a big love letter to the series. But, they brought back the Magic Mansion and Sardo. But they cast a different actor in the role instead of getting Richard Dumont to come back. You don't know, he originally played Sardo in the original show. And I was initially kind of mad about that. I'm like, why could you get it, it's not Sardo, but he got me because I ended up liking him almost right away. The actor does a very good job. Though his voice is a little high-pitched, he does do a very good job. And although he doesn't do the whole thing, Sardo, accent on the dough. And he does do the by now, one of the episodes. But so it's, it's him. He's good. And we do find out later he's like the son or grandson or maybe just a successor to the name of Sardo. We find out later. But they find out that the disappearance is linked to this book of magic spells. And one thing I noticed, and it's very noticeable upon rewatch. So they go into the woods, right? And when they go into the woods, they say if it gets dark when you're in the woods, it's gonna, the sun goes down and stuff, you're cursed. So when they're in the woods and they're running, it gets very, very dark. However, once they get out of the woods, it's lighter outside. I know woods are darker inherently, but it just seems lighter outside. And they're like, oh, it's past sundown. No, because if it was past sundown, it'd be dark out, and there's still light. So I don't know about that, but they're cursed. And I remember originally thinking, oh, Luke is cursed. But then everyone gets cursed by the fact that they put great focus on Luke taking too long to get out. Yet everyone is still cursed. Which I found to be weird. I don't know. Really weird. So one thing I can say about this is the length. Like I said, they doubled the length from the last one from 3 to 6. And it's not really necessary, in my opinion. If it was necessary, yes, by all means do it. But it's apparent, it's very obvious they didn't have enough story to do through 6 episodes. How do I know that? Because they have almost an entire episode focused on a school dance. When they're supposed to be trying to stop the Shadow Man. Even though they sort of think it's over, but it's not over. But still, they have that false safeness, and then they go to a dance. But it just, like, there's a little bit of focus at the beginning. And another thing I'm going to criticize is that we don't really get to know Connor. Like, they're all worried about Connor, but us as an audience, we don't know who he is. We end up seeing through flashbacks spread out through each of the parts what he did and how he got where he was. But I think if you took out the whole dance thing, focused the first episode on introducing us to the Midnight Society, introducing us to Connor, maybe have them telling a story or something, start with them telling a story, move forward, then tell them, hey, I got this, the curse thing, trying to talk to Luke, and Luke says no, but he goes out there anyway. Showing all that during the first part would have been better than having an entire filler episode, because other than a part where we show that Luke is stuck with a bunch of other lost children in some kind of pocket dimension sort of thing within the lighthouse. The rest of the episode is about the dance until the end, where they run away from, because they've found Connor, they think, but it's not Connor. It's because what happens is Luke does this spell which he thinks is going to, stop the curse, and Connor comes back, or so they think, but it's actually what he has done is he's allowed the Shadow Man to take the guise of Connor and walk during the days of the light. So, during the daytime, I should say. It's very obvious. And as the episode goes on, it's more and more obvious. But, yeah. The whole episode could be taken out. Make it like 4 parts. Even like 5 would be too much. Make it 4 parts, Oh, something else I want to criticize here. Okay, so this is a 6-part thing. This is almost 4.5 hours. 4 hours and 22 minutes. They fit it on one DVD disc. One DVD disc. They couldn't put... Warner Brothers decided they couldn't fit the entire Snyder Cut on one Blu-ray disc, which can keep more on it, by the way. You can fit more on it, by the way. They had to put it separated. It bugs me because I want to be able to watch the whole thing and not have to put it in another disc. And I like this. I was able to sit and watch the whole thing without having to get up, except for use the bathroom, of course. Not have to put in another disc or anything. There's also, I notice, a lot of shots that extend the episode. Like almost every episode, there's a scene where they sit around a table and are talking, and the camera moves to each one of them as they're talking. It's like a scene in every episode, and it's like, okay, like I get in the first episode, you would do that to kind of establish what you're talking about and stuff, but after a while, it's like, okay, this Shadow Man is after you, and you're going to sit and have a conversation. Like I said, they didn't have enough script to fill 6 episodes, so they had to put some filler in there, and it's obvious. Alright? None more so than putting a subplot in one of the later episodes where they get grounded, which doesn't go anywhere because they sneak out anyway. So they just had to extend the episode with the groundingness. With them being grounded. Also, Seth, Hannah's younger brother, who wants to be a part of Midnight Society, but he's told no on many occasions. Hannah doesn't want him to be a part of it. She, takes off on him and leaves him behind. And I get that's older sibling stuff. You don't want your younger sibling around you. I get that. As an older child, I get that. But it gets to a certain point. They all get cursed because Seth followed them into the woods. They all get cursed. She still leaves him behind. And I'm like, no, you can't do that because he's cursed. Leave him behind, the Shadow Man will get him. And he even says this. I think they realized what they were doing, so they have Seth say the line, I'm cursed, so you can't just leave me behind, or something like that. I'm like, yeah, it's got a point. You can't just leave him behind. I know you don't want him. And then they decide, and I get this. I really think they should have waited to the very end to do it. But just before they're ready to go into the final battle, or to set a trap for the Shadow Man in Connor's body, they induct him into the Midnight Society. Okay, but couldn't you have done that at the end? Like, you're getting ready to set a trap. What if he showed up early? You never know, right? So they set up this trap. It doesn't work. It costs Sardo his life. And one by one, each and every member of the Midnight Society, except for Luke, is taken. Now this really makes me question. This is where it really feels like there was a lot of filler. Because if he could do this, why the hell didn't he do it before? And the only answer I have is because we need to fill 6 episodes worth. And couldn't have them take them one by one like that, because then there wouldn't be a story. True. It's true, right? Right? It's true. So instead, he takes them all one by one. And it's done very well, actually. Because Hannah's the first one to go. And then when Seth asks where she is, Luke is afraid to tell him. So he's like, oh, she's just hiding. But you can see on his face, that ain't true. And everyone else is taken down. I think Jay is actually taken first. And then Hannah. Because Jay sacrifices himself at the dance. And then it's Hannah. And then the others. You know. And technically it's Connor. But you know what I mean. Connor first. And you discover that. I do find out that. Since we're now in the last episode. Now we have. And this is why I have a problem. Except for. There's most of the last episode I like. But it does feel rushed. And we've had all this filler through the first 5 episodes. And episode 6 feels rushed. Why? Because we established in the previous episode that Connor and much of the other kids are trapped in like a pocket dimension, right? So Luke treks out to the woods again, goes into the lighthouse and looks around. And all of a sudden, they can hear him. And they can see his flashlight. And if it's on an item and they see the shadow of it, they can grab it. So he uses the skeleton key, which we established can get into anything, and Hannah grabs the shadow and it becomes a key, and they're able to open the door and leave. Connor gets a moment with a little kid. Forgot her name, but she's one of the little girls that are missing, and she disappears. I think this works. This is kind of dark, because I think if this was one of the, like, from back in the day, I think Nickelodeon would have had it where they just became the older version of themselves. But they disappear. They go poof and they're gone, which I thought was pretty good. And but of course, so the beginning of the episode, Luke's by himself. He goes back to the Magic Mansion, and he is shown through a bunch of a spell that he's taken back, and he's shown certain points of Sardo talking to people, giving him information. One such flashback takes us to the Magic Mansion. I'm assuming in the the 90s, I'm guessing. Because it starts with, okay, so before I do this, I have to tell you about June Murphy. She's the girl that died. And it's the reason why all this happened. Because her dad found the book, took the book from Sardo's Magic Mansion, and used it and accidentally created the Shadow Man. So in this scene, you see this little kid playing with a magic top hat on and cape, which, of course, Luke thinks is Seth because he's a magic kid. But then June's dad walks in and says, "Mr. Sardo," and then you hear it. "That's Sardo, no Mr. Accent on the dough." And I went, no. And yes, they got Richard Dumont to come back for a cameo as the original Sardo, which is why I thought maybe it's either his son or grandson or just a successor who took the name Sardo. Oh, another Easter egg. When Seth does one of his spells, he says Shandu. So, Shandu. So, that's another Easter egg. I just thought of that. Popped in my head there. But yeah, it warmed my heart to see him pop up. I didn't think we were going to see him because they recasted him, or maybe they didn't. But, it was cool to see him show up, Yeah, so Luke is told, do these flashbacks, return. So he uses this book because he gets a hint, always say goodbye. So he does that. It's not a spell, it's a Ouija board. And that's how he gets these hints. And so he decides to use the book. Now, after he rescues everyone, he tells them he's going to use the book. And everyone's like, no, we can't do that. Because even though we rushed rescuing them, we still got to waste time because we have an hour to fill. So we're like, no, we're not going to do it. And then he makes a big speech. And says, okay, we'll do it. And then, because Luke's establishing he's now the leader because Connor went off on his own. And actually, yeah, everything that happened to Connor, his fault. He shouldn't have done it. So it's his fault. But so they use the book to go back in time and stop June Murphy from dying. My big problem with this, the Shadow Man shows up in the past. He shouldn't exist yet. Here's my reasoning. The spell hasn't been cast yet. At this point, June Murphy is still alive. She hasn't died. The spell hasn't been cast yet. The dad doesn't even have the book. I know they need to have some big, something trying to stop them. But it doesn't, to me, and even watching it this time, it still doesn't make any sense. I know they say, if you use the book, he'll come after you. So that's the reasoning. You used the book so he can come back. But it still doesn't make any sense. The Shadow Man does not exist yet. If you go back in time to when something doesn't exist, it's not there. Right? Right. So Shadow Man shouldn't be there. But we have to have him trying to stop. And another thing that bugs me is you have Seth trying to turn on these lights. And ends up being the one at the very top that he can't reach. And it's very convenient that it just so happens to be one at the very top to turn on the lights. But yeah, they changed history. June Murphy is now running for mayor. And the little girl is now grown up and she has a daughter. And it's the night of the dance because, of course it is. Somehow Luke was able to make it go back to that day. I don't know why. And they go to the Magic Mansion, and it seems at first like Sorrow doesn't remember. Everyone else leaves. But then he says this. He says, the next time someone warns you about a curse, better listen, or something like that. And it's like, okay, maybe he does remember. No. I will say that this Sardo is a little more competent. He's not like any better than Richard Dumont's Sardo, but he seems to know more about what he's doing than the other one does. Have you seen Awful Mid? I'm losing on the deal. I think he says that too. I'm losing on the deal. But, yeah, and it ends with them, the lighthouse, we did that. Yeah, yell it louder. People are going to be confused what the hell you're talking about. Of course, now that everything's changed, they're not grounded anymore. Most of 91 knows what happened. People are going through the woods. It's normal. And they finally have their meeting outside now. And you have Luke going, submitted for the approval of Midnight Society. He does the monologue. We all come from different backgrounds. We are called the Midnight Society. We come from different backgrounds. Yada. One thing brings us together. The dark. He doesn't say different schools because they all go to the same school. But the dark. I love that. Call back to the original show. I love that. And then it ends with him going, submitted for the approval of Midnight Society. I call this tale. Those and he goes, and it ends. Honestly, this was pretty good. Even on a second watch, watching all of them through, this is the first time I was able to sit and watch all 6 parts back to back. Even though I think it's unnecessary for them to be 6 parts, it is really enjoyable. I do recommend it. And the acting from the kid actors is really good. I do one thing I wanted to. The Shadow Man reminds me of Zoom from The Flash. I'm sorry, he's black. He's got this thing sticking out of his head. He reminds me of Zoom. I'm sorry, he does, but I don't know. It's supposed to be like a tree-like creature, I guess. I'm iffy on his design, but hey, some pretty good stuff with him in this. Yeah. This was pretty good. Now I've reviewed the first miniseries, which dealt with the Midnight Society as main characters. I've done this one, which dealt with the Midnight Society main characters. I think it's time for me to go back and talk about the first time the Midnight Society were main characters in the story. So, submitted for the approval of the YouTube Society, my next review will be The Tale of the Silver Sight. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. I'll see you in the next one.